It was decided sometime in 1956 to convert all corrective labor camps to corrective labor colonies, where the principal emphasis would be on rehabilitating the prisoners and returning them speedily to civilian life rather than on exploiting prison labor for economic purposes. Forced labor in the USSR 1953-57 page 7 para 3. Each enterprise where the prisoners worked paid the money earned by the prisoners to the camp. The camp deducted 60% of each prisoner's earnings for the upkeep of the camp. More was deducted from the remaining 40% as the upkeep of the prisoner himself. The remaining money was given to the prisoner. In addition, for overfulfillment of the norm there were the so-called sakati payments. For overfulfilling the norm by 105%, 1 day of the sentence was counted as 2. Forced labor camps in the USSR, transfer of prisoners between camps until 1952 page 6 para 3, para 7. The camp's conditions and programs were generally better than what we had expected. Conditions of confinement at Perm 29 were humane and not substandard relative to the surrounding community. The facility was clean and orderly, and administered in a professional manner. Inside Soviet prisons 1991 page 6 para 3. Prisoners were productively employed in work that did not appear either to be exploitative or generally regarded by the inmates as a form of punishment. Inside Soviet prisons 1991 page 12 para 8. The self-management system has by this time been introduced into virtually every element of Yugoslav society. Even prisoners are encouraged to form councils in order to increase their production and to prepare themselves better to fit into a self-managed society when they are released. Yugoslavia, 20 years of self-management page 9 para 1. Judges are elected in Yugoslavia. Every citizen who is of age and has not been deprived of his civil rights may be elected a judge or judge-juror. Judges and judge-jurors are elected or dismissed by the People's Executive Councils and the People's Assemblies. Judge-jurors participate in trials of criminal and civil cases. Their election does not depend on their ancestry, position, or any special privileges. The difference between judges and judge-jurors is that the former act in the capacity as their regular occupation, while judge-jurors act in that capacity temporarily, for 15 days of the year, retaining their regular occupations. The courts are independent, acting only in accordance with the law. Being separated completely from the administration, courts cannot be influenced in making decisions. Development and organization of the judiciary in Yugoslavia page 2 para 11 page 3 para 5. The number of lay and professional judges varies, with more at higher-level courts. However, the lay judges always outnumber the professional ones at the first instance courts. Bulgarian laws were roughly similar to the Soviet Union. All attorneys were required to join an attorneys' collective and could elect their own company directors. The Bulgarian judicial system page 2 para 4, page 3 para 6 to 7. The people's courts are elected directly by the citizens of the district for a term of 3 years. Government structure of the USSR page 6 para 9. Accused persons have the right to a trial by a judicial panel. For felony equivalent cases heard in provincial courts, these panels consist of 5 judges, 3 of whom are trained jurists with law degrees, and 2 of whom are citizens chosen to serve as lay judges. Less serious criminal offenses are adjudicated by municipal court panels consisting of 1 jurist and 2 lay judges. By 1990, the prison population in Cuba had dropped to around 19,000 as a result of the liberalized penal code that went into effect in 1988. This number yields a rate of imprisonment of approximately 190 per 100,000. Cuban inmates are expected to complete the equivalent of a high school degree if they do not have one. If they do not have a trade, they are expected to learn one. Inmates not involved in an educational program are expected to work. Prisoners are paid the same wage for their work in prison that they would receive on the outside. They are expected to contribute 1/3 of this income to their upkeep in prison. The remainder is devoted to supporting any dependents, and for assorted purchases in prison. Cuban inmates receive medical care comparable to that outside the prison. World Factbook of Criminal Justice Systems, Cuba. Page 8 para 6 to 7, page 12 para 4, page 12 para 12. The Soviet Union attempts to maintain all values in balance so that the prices received by industry and agriculture for their products, and the income of the members of the professions for their services, shall be in due proportion, one to another, according to communistic theory. Therefore, in the endeavor to limit the income of the lawyers by control of their charges in proportion to the income of their clients, the Soviet Union early found it desirable to enforce tariffs establishing maximum charges which could be exacted for the services of the lawyer. In other words, there may be variations in income within industries depending on the skill, difficulty or desirability of each job. However, There should not be variations in overall incomes between different industries or regions. There should not be some industries or areas that are richer than others. In capitalist countries, often legal workers are much higher paid than other professions. Further control of lawyers' fees in Soviet Russia. 1936. American Bar Association Journal, 22 1, 67-69. http://www.jster.org/stable/257122021. Key differences between capitalist and socialist justice systems. Capitalist judges tend to be appointed by an elected or unelected executive authority like the president or governor-general. Juries are chosen at random from the population. Capitalist lawyers are generally unaffordable to the working class and work for undemocratic capitalist businesses. Capitalist prison systems are aimed at breaking the spirit of criminals, training them to tolerate being exploited and oppressed. Blame is placed entirely on the individual. The social, political and economic causes of crime are largely ignored. Criminals are used as cheap or slave labor. Rape between inmates is tolerated. Socialist judges are generally elected by the assembly at higher levels or representation or directly at the local level. Jurors are also elected instead of chosen with sortition. The difference between professional and lay judges is that the professional ones have university degrees in law and lay judges generally don't, however they are selected for their good and responsible character. The legal fees for socialist lawyers are kept affordable to working-class people with market regulation and subsidies. Lawyers generally work in democratic collectives or cooperatives with elected company directors. Socialist prison conditions are usually much more humane and aimed towards helping criminals rebuild their lives. Prisoners can be paid fairly well. If there is some form of exploitation, it is to pay the staff of the prison or to fund social or public projects or services that indirectly benefit the criminals, ultimately contributing to the growth of the commonwealth of society. Criminals can study new careers and often come out of prison with a new degree or other qualification. A criminal record usually doesn't hinder your ability to find work outside of jail, and the government often tries to help find work for ex-convicts upon release, keeping their criminal status confidential.